Minecraft is now playable on a Game Boy Advance. Yeah, I'm serious. Somebody actually made it and this is working. But I will not only show you one insane version of 3D Minecraft on the Game Boy Advance, but another one that no one has ever seen. And to really understand how crazy all of this is, we have to look at the Game Boy Advance, because this handheld was not powerful enough to display 3D graphics. At least that's what people thought. And we have seen a few projects that showed that it very much is capable of doing that, but it needed so many inventions. And we had some 2D versions of Minecraft before on the Game Boy Advance, but actually bringing it to 3D really required a lot of effort. And this is the first version I will show you. This is GBA Craft, made by 3D Sarge, and he put a lot of energy into making this something special that works. In this version, you have a creative world in which you can freely move and you can build stuff there. You can save it, export it, import it, and rotate around it. And it is a lot of fun to play around with this. It's really not as simple as you think. There are a lot of things that needed to be fixed for this to be possible. Especially because the GBA doesn't have 3D hardware. So you can imagine it's like running a PC game without a graphics card. That's really difficult. I mean, you can build different things in it and it really runs on a GBA. And by the way, 3D Sarge made a lot of other cool things for the Game Boy Advance. So you should really go and see what he is doing, because yeah, he puts a lot of effort into all of this. But what if I told you that this was just one project? Because the thing is, what I really imagined is having a version of Minecraft that runs on a GBA where you are actually in a generated world and you can walk around in that world and explore that world. And you can destroy blocks and you can build blocks and you have a lot of different cool block types to work with and many other features. But isn't this just completely impossible on the Game Boy Advance? Well, I guess after everything you just saw, you should know the answer already. Here's the thing, I have played around with making GBA games in the past, and it was a super painful experience. So I really shouldn't touch this again. But then I remembered that I'm the kind of person who went without shoes into the mountains and tried to sleep there without a sleeping bag. And I really didn't manage. This was a horrible experience and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. And it was the second time I did something like this. Anyway, going back to that dream version of Minecraft on the Game Boy Advance. I tried to make it. Yeah. First, I created a prototype in a programming language I really understand on stronger hardware, and that one was working. I used Perlin noise for the 3D world generation. I tried to make it as simple as possible. And then I did a lot of research. How 3D on the Game Boy Advance is actually possible. And a lot of the projects are not open source, so I just have to compile a lot of information together. And I tried something, and of course it crashed. After trying a lot, I got something like this. And well, I at least could see something, but I'm not gonna bore you with all the hours and days I spent on this. Anyway, at one point I had something that actually displayed an image, but it was incredibly slow, and I really had to spend a lot of time to make this run faster. And I got to a point where, well, it's kind of playable, but at the same time, this is sped up footage. It is running with 1 frame per second. And you can destroy blocks in this, you can look around, and it is a open generated world, and there are different block types that can be placed. But I have a lot of things that I need to figure out with this engine to actually make it work. Because building something like this from scratch is very difficult. And the problem in this version is not the size of the world, because actually running this with just a 5x5x1 world with a tree on it also is not running very fast. Also, it crashes on the GBA after a while. The thing is, I really wanted to figure this out even more until this point, but it is just so difficult. I will definitely share some updates in the future. But this is my first experience with actually making something like this, and I will go much more in depth on how I did all of this once this project really gets to a stage where it is playable. But I believe it is possible to make a version of Minecraft run on the GBA that has a lot of features and even a survival mode. And I think we have only just scratched the surface of what is possible with this device. Because one of the main and important things about the GBA is that the RAM of this device is actually very fast. Even though it doesn't have a lot of RAM, you can really load a lot of things into it in a dynamic way. So you only load what you need to see and the rest of the world is not loaded. And this can even make some games run much faster than other games that rely on loading the entire world at the same time. If you look at Joshua Barretto's Mario 64 on the GBA, you see that jumping into paintings is almost instant because he uses that method. And if you look at a project like Open Lara, it shows you where the ceiling might be, because this is gameplay on the Game Boy Advance that actually looks like a DS game. This is like proper 3D graphics. And yes, I'm not kidding, it runs on the GBA. And I looked at the files of how this was made and I tried to find some ways to use the knowledge from this magic to improve my project somehow. And well, here's the thing. It uses a lot of assembly. Look, learning C and C++ for projects like this is one thing. This is still a language that's similar to other languages I learned before and it kind of makes sense. But no, just no. Okay, maybe if this video gets super popular and everyone wants it, but no. There has to be another way. I just refuse it. Okay, I did a lot of crazy things and I guess I can really do even more things, but I really think we are not at this point yet. Anyway, we will keep working on this and maybe at one point we reach a point where I don't have any other choice. Yeah. But I need a break. Also, just after finishing this video, I made a breakthrough. I managed to find a different approach to the engine and it now runs with good FPS in an empty world. It's still very buggy and I need some time to implement it, but on this channel I do more videos like this about interesting things in gaming. And if you enjoy this, you would really support me by subscribing or by becoming a channel member. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want to watch another interesting thing that I made, then you can watch this video where I talk about Super Mario 64 on the Game Boy Advance.